This president didn't just lead wars. He led a charge that inspired an entire nation. In this video, we'll dive into each commander-in-chief's signature moment, revealing what made them truly great and sometimes, surprisingly, where politics took a backseat to heroism. And so, let's turn our gaze to the early presidents who set the stage for American leadership. First up, George Washington, the general turned president. In an era where every decision was a first, Washington carved out a path of presidential decorum and neutrality, ensuring that the office wasn't tied to any one political faction. He established traditions like delivering the State of the Union speech and set the two-term precedent, making him more than just a war hero. Next is Thomas Jefferson, who doubled America's size with his purchase of the Louisiana Territory in 1803. It was a bold move that expanded the nation's borders from sea to shining sea, setting the stage for westward expansion. But it wasn't without controversy. Some questioned if he had the authority to make such an expansive deal, but Jefferson knew it was a defining moment for America's future. James Madison followed, leading the country through its first declared war, the War of 1812. It was a tricky situation with Britain, and a fledgling nation trying to assert itself on the world stage. Despite losing battles, Madison's leadership during this time solidified America's independence and paved the way for future presidents to manage complex international relations. These early leaders faced monumental challenges, but managed to lay down the foundational stones of American governance. But what about those who came after them? How did they tackle their own historic moments? In our next chapter, we'll explore how westward expansion drove America's growth and shaped its identity in ways none could have imagined. As the Founding Fathers began to establish the nation, they couldn't have foreseen how quickly it would spread across the continent. This expansion was driven by manifest destiny, a belief that it was America's divine right to control all of North America. Andrew Jackson made this ideology a reality with his Indian Removal Act in 1830, forcibly relocating thousands of Native Americans from their ancestral lands east of the Mississippi River to territories westward. The Trail of Tears, as it became known, marked one of the darkest chapters in American history. James K. Polk took aggressive steps toward expansion when he annexed Texas in 1845 and declared war on Mexico a year later over disputes about territory. By the time the Mexican-American War ended in 1848, the United States had gained vast new territories that would eventually become states like California, Nevada, Utah, New Mexico, and Arizona. Zachary Taylor played a key role during this period, leading American forces to victory at the Battle of Buena Vista in 1847. His success secured more land for the growing nation and solidified his reputation as a military hero, contributing to his presidential bid just 2 years later. With each new piece of territory came fresh challenges and conflicts, challenges that would soon erupt into another defining conflict for America, the Civil War. The Civil War began in 1861 when Southern states, fearing loss of power and rights, seceded from the Union. Abraham Lincoln, newly elected as president, faced the daunting task of holding the nation together. His Emancipation Proclamation in 1863 freed slaves in Confederate-held territories, transforming the war's purpose to a moral crusade against slavery. Ulysses S. Grant, known for his strategic brilliance and relentless pursuit of victory, played a crucial role in ending the Civil War. With Lincoln's support, He launched a series of successful campaigns that ultimately led to the surrender at Appomattox Courthouse in 1865. This reunion of the nation marked the beginning of Reconstruction. Rutherford B. Hayes's presidency saw an end to federal oversight during Reconstruction after his disputed election in 1876. A compromise was struck, removing Union troops from the South and ending military rule, despite many Northerners feeling betrayed by this turn of events. This left Southern states free to enforce their own laws, often at the expense of African American rights. With the Civil War over and Reconstruction fading into history, new challenges emerged for the nation as it sought to rebuild and reconcile. Up next, the Gilded Age, when industrialists like Andrew Carnegie and J.P. Morgan rose to power, shaping America's future in unprecedented ways. As industrialists like Andrew Carnegie and J.P. Morgan shaped America's future in unprecedented ways, another wave of reform swept through the country at the turn of the century. This era was known as the Progressive Era, when Americans sought to address societal ills through government intervention. Theodore Roosevelt, who became president after William McKinley's assassination, was a key figure in this movement. He worked tirelessly to establish national parks and preserve natural resources for future generations. His efforts helped safeguard America's wilderness from unchecked industrial expansion. Woodrow Wilson followed, leading the country into World War I with the aim of making the world safe for democracy. After years of conflict, he orchestrated the signing of the Treaty of Versailles in 1919, officially ending the war and shaping post-war Europe. Despite his lofty goals, domestic political divisions at home made it impossible to ratify the treaty. Warren G. Harding took office after Wilson's tenure, but had a short presidency marred by scandal and controversy. His administration saw the start of Prohibition, which aimed to curb alcohol abuse, though it ultimately failed due to widespread lawlessness and corruption. Harding's unexpected death in 1923 left Vice President Calvin Coolidge at the helm, setting the stage for an era marked by economic boom and social change. So much for the progressives' vision of a reformed America. Up next, the Roaring Twenties, where prosperity and new freedoms brought both joy and chaos to the nation. The 1920s brought about an era of economic prosperity and social transformation, but as we move forward in time, another major shift begins to take shape. By the late 1940s, World War II had ended, leaving a new challenge for America: navigating the Cold War. First up is Dwight D. Eisenhower, who took office in 1953 with a focus on national security and economic growth. His greatest achievement was the interstate highway system, a sprawling network of roads that revolutionized transportation across the country, while also providing strategic defense against potential threats from abroad. Next comes John F. Kennedy, who assumed the presidency in 1961 amid escalating tensions between the United States and the Soviet Union. In October 1962, his cool handling of the Cuban Missile Crisis averted nuclear war and established him as a leader of international diplomacy. Lyndon B. Johnson followed Kennedy to office after his tragic assassination. He championed sweeping social reforms known as the Great Society programs. The crowning achievements were Medicare and Medicaid, which provided health care coverage for millions of elderly and low-income Americans. As these leaders tackled their respective challenges, another era was quietly setting up on the horizon, one marked by civil rights movements and technological advancements that would soon reshape America once again. So what's next? We'll dive into a chapter where social justice becomes front and center, and technology takes leaps forward. Welcome to the tumultuous yet transformative 1960s. The 1960s were indeed a time of great social upheaval and change. But let's fast forward to see what the latter half of the 20th century had in store for America. We start with Ronald Reagan taking office in 1981. He promised to revive the economy through deregulation and tax cuts, reducing government interference in industries and lowering taxes significantly for individuals and corporations. His policies helped spur economic growth, but also led to increased income inequality. Next up is Bill Clinton's tenure from 1993 to 2001. Under his watch, the North American Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA, was signed into law, creating a massive free trade zone between the United States, Canada, and Mexico. This marked a major shift in international economic relations for America. And in a bold move against terrorism before 9/11, Clinton ordered airstrikes on Osama bin Laden's compound in Afghanistan in August 1998. Fast forward to Barack Obama's presidency from 2009 to 2017. His crowning achievement was undoubtedly the Affordable Care Act, commonly known as Obamacare. This legislation aimed to provide health insurance for millions of uninsured Americans and significantly expanded Medicaid eligibility. Lastly, Donald Trump's administration saw a major overhaul in tax laws with his Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017. The bill cut taxes across the board but particularly benefited corporations and high-income individuals. Additionally, it led to renegotiations of international trade agreements like the new United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, or USMCA. As we wrap up this chapter on modern presidents, their achievements span economic reforms, healthcare expansion, and significant foreign policy actions. But what lies ahead for America in our next chapter? We'll explore how social justice movements and technological advancements continue to shape the nation's future. Welcome to a new era of challenges and triumphs. So stay tuned as we dive into an age where activism meets innovation. Ready or not, here it comes. Each president leaves their mark in unique ways, showing how leadership shapes our nation's story. If you enjoyed this journey through history, why not stick around and hit that subscribe button for more tales from the past?